One of the most defining features of the GTA franchise is its commitment to open-world maps, where the player can freely explore when not actively completing any missions. Well, somewhat freely. GTA 3 and GTA San Andreas, to use two examples. The player was confined to certain areas of the game until they had completed a set amount of the game's main story missions. Broken bridges or an instant wanted level have all been used as deterrents to keep players confined to a certain area within the game world until they are ready for the next part of the game. All that looks set to change for a newer, possibly more exciting way, as Rockstar intends on developing the map further beyond the initial release of the game. Yep, you heard that right. The map will get bigger as time goes on. So let's blow our minds on what this could all potentially mean. The example seen here is only a concept. The real map is yet to be revealed, although there was an early design scene in the leaked material that fans have been poring over since, trying to figure out how it will all tie together. What we do know for sure though is that the map will be built with the intention of expanding on it over time. Rockstar appears to be aiming for a moderately sized day one release, which by their standards will still be pretty big when compared to other AAA games, after which they intend to expand on further after the initial release. The benefits of working this way have been made clear by Rockstar themselves in the wake of the 2018 release of Red Dead Redemption 2 that ushered in a cultural shift within Rockstar itself. One of the main draws is the reduction in crunch time, a term used to describe times when developers are literally crunched against deadlines to get a game out in time for a promised release date. This practice has been roundly rejected by development staff and gamers alike, since its use and its effect on games and the people that make them have come to be highlighted more in the public eye. A welcome change to an industry that previously burnt out developers and pushed out unfinished products or lazy live service games to paste over shoddy, unpolished work. To add to that, focusing on a smaller, more detailed map will free up a lot of time and energy for developers to focus on smaller tasks, creating a more immersive game world, one that favors a more deeper, more interactive world rather than a much more massive, broader set-piece one. For those that played Assassin's Creed Valhalla, it might have been impressive that Ubisoft managed to make such a huge open world. But when there is bugger all to do in it, it makes for a very boring experience instead of one you can immerse yourself into. GTA 6 looks to be taking that lesson to heart and focusing more on a deep and detailed world, with something interesting on every street corner. To achieve that, it makes sense to make the world smaller to begin with. When players get to explore it for the first time, I doubt that they'll really care that much that it is less square miles than previous titles. Especially considering that there are apparently around 1,300 random events that can happen within the game world. NPC interactions, robberies, police shakedowns, and much more. And these are the ones that we know about from the leaks. The world will be alive and changing, reactive to the player's inputs and worthy of exploration. Not just pretty locations to see, but full of things to do and events to experience. With the game world set to be jam-packed with content, it isn't really a bad thing that developers are more focused on that than the size and scale of the environment. And when the time comes to expand on that environment, they can shift their focus and make the newer parts of the map even more special, giving the game added longevity and something for fans to be continually excited for. So how will this work? At this time, we can only speculate how this will work. It could be that areas of the map are seamlessly added in, something within the game itself that prevents players from getting there until it's released. Police barriers, natural disasters, damaged and inoperable infrastructure could be the in-game lore reason as to why these areas can't be accessed yet. That, or it could work in a similar way to how GTA 5 Online did with its Cayo Perico island, where players needed to fly a certain distance in a certain direction away from the game world. A cutscene would play and the new game area would load in. This would probably be the most convenient way to add to the game map, although it is basically just making new maps with loading screen barriers and calling it a map expansion. Truth is, we don't know for sure how this is going to work, but what we do know for certain is the playable area that we'll get on first release won't be the only playable area we'll get for the game. Will this hurt wallets? We can't say for certain if any of this is going to be free with a standard retail copy of the game. While Rockstar has in the past tended towards making the bulk of their money after initial release with microtransactions, there is nothing to suggest that this might change, but nothing to suggest it won't either. GTA 5's online updates were free. The only thing players could pay for was for in-game money or exclusive cosmetic items. Red Dead Online paid a harsh price in the early days of its online mode when the absurdly skewed economy left players reeling from insane weapon prices, tiny payouts for in-game missions, and a general lack of things to do to get that in-game money without actually buying it. Initially, Rockstar pointed out that the in-game prices of weapons were to reflect their prices at the time period of the late 19th century. It was eventually pointed out to them that the weapons they were selling in-game at prices ranging into the hundreds of dollars actually sold at around $25 back in 1899. All this fostered a pay-to-win system, which rightly has no place in a AAA game that players have already forked out for. Rockstar were quick to backpedal on this and vastly improved Red Dead's online mode before quietly dropping ongoing updates for it. Hopefully Rockstar has learned their lesson from trying to force people into buying in-game currency. Let's hope they stick with the purely cosmetic stuff. Again, we don't know for sure, but their track record and their course corrections could give us all a hint at the direction they're going with. The map extension may come free to single players of the game, extending the playable world and potentially even adding in new missions and story chapters. We might see that to access these areas in the online mode of the games with a price tag as DLC. It's equally possible that the map extensions may only exist in the online mode, hopefully free with a bog-standard retail copy. We don't know for sure and can only speculate with our fingers crossed. Will a story expansion be included? It's worth mentioning that Rockstar initially said that they intended to expand on GTA 5's story arc after the game's release. Most of us have probably forgotten and no longer care, but it should be pointed out that Rockstar eventually backtracked on that and gave up on the idea entirely. Red Dead Redemption 2 also didn't receive any single-player story expansions, although it was a massive game on its release with hours of content in just the main story alone. Still, it would have been nice to be able to visit Guama again. We may not actually see an expansion of the main story in GTA 6. This isn't necessarily a bad thing though. If the story is compelling and riveting enough, then a good beginning, middle, and conclusion could be all that's really needed. Rockstar is clearly planning to go much deeper and a lot more detailed in their immersive world building this time around. After the pioneering work done on RDR2's living, breathing Western world, seeing what's been further developed and expanded on is definitely exciting. A huge world that is as vast as an ocean but as deep as a puddle gets very boring very quickly. If you've played Ghost Recon Wildlands, you'll understand what I mean. Relative, samey missions in a slightly different looking location isn't all that interesting or immersive. Having something new on every street corner or random chance that comes out of nowhere will offer some very exciting and unique moments throughout your play though, owing to more replayability and more exploration of the game world. While the developers focus more on the depth of their world rather than the size of it, it will be very interesting to see what they come up with in just the single-player experience. But GTA 6 is a long way off, dear viewer. Rockstar aren't any closer to finishing it than when you started watching this video. Yet, here you are, lapping up GTA content like a coke fiend that dropped his gram on the floor. These cravings you're having point to one thing and one thing only. That you, yes you, are not ready for GTA 6. And you can check out this video to see why. If not, and you'd like to satiate your addiction further, then like and subscribe. Worship at the altar of algorithmically selected curated content and we shall show you how deep the rabbit hole really goes.